After you lightly block out your peach, you're going to be adding a light wash of your lightest color. The lightest color in our peach is going to be yellow. So I pre-made this yellow color. I added a little bit of my warm red to it, and I just took a little bit of the pigment and then I added pure water to it to drag that color throughout the peach. This is just going to go in the areas that are lightest first, just to create a foundation before we go and add some texture and go and add some more colors. With watercolor, you have to remember that layering is key. We start light first and then go dark because it's easier to go darker than it is to go lighter. So what you'll see in this first little bit is me blocking in the tones that I see, so blocking in that light yellow, and then I also go in and block in the reddish orangish color, which is just a very, very light wash of a red tone first. Now that the basic foundational tones of my peach are colored in, I'm going to start to add in the green for the leaf, and then I also added in a darker version and a more condensed version of a brown to fill in the area where we have the little part of the stem. Now that we have a complete foundation and our peach is starting to have some color to it, we're going to add another layer. The first layer needs to be dried before you do this, but you're going to be looking at the colors of your peach. So I looked at that yellow that I made, that orangish yellow, and I'm going over it again one more time. We're going to be doing multiple layers with this, so it's nice to work kind of one color at a time, and you need to wait before colors that you place next to one another are dry a little bit. So I'm going to place down my yellows first, wait for that to dry, and then go back in and add my darker orange and darker red tones. But this is where you'll start to see your peach take form. With this, we're just going to block in the general tones. We aren't going to be adding any textural movements yet, but when you start to do this, the next layer is going to be adding texture, of course. We want to follow the curve of and the form of your object. So we have peaches here. Peaches are more round. If we make rounder brush strokes, then our peach is going to appear more round. If we make flatter brush strokes, it'll appear more flat. So you want to be making conscious decisions of what motion you're moving your paintbrush in when you're doing this. So continue to add just like another foundational layer, and then I'll check back in when I start to add my third layer. When you see that your second layer of color has begun to dry a little bit more, you can go and start to add a third layer. This is where you'll start to get some more dimension to your shape and start to add a little bit of texture. So I darkened up my yellow a little bit just because the sides of the peach are a little bit more orange than the closer to the middle part. So I went and added that in. And I'm also starting to use more condensed colors. So before I was using a very light wash of the red, now you can see that I'm going in very dark. Notice the brush movements that I'm making. They're very stark, very sporadic. It's almost like stippling as you would with a pencil, but with a paintbrush instead. We're doing this because the peach itself has texture and it has colors that mimic that stippling. This is going to help us create that fuzzy texture and just create that variation of color that we see on our peach. This is something that you'll probably be using when you work on flowers, just because they're very textural and they have a bunch of different color variations within them. So you're going to start to go in, add this third layer, start to add some texture, start to add some stippling. At this point, it's just going to continue to work and develop those colors to make them darker, to look at what you see, try to add some texture to it, and really just match your image the best that you possibly can. So I'm almost nearing the end of my demonstration here. I included so many different layers on here. I blocked in some shadows underneath my leaf using a darker tone. I just layered and layered and layered on this one, just to make sure that I had all the textures, that I matched the colors the closest that I could, and just made it look like a peach. So what I'm going to do here now is we need to create a feeling of presence within our peach. We need to add a shadow. So there is a shadow, a slight shadow underneath the parts of our peach. I've just mixed a very light gray using like a little bit of a purple with some yellow in it to create a cast shadow, and that goes right under there, and I layered that as well. Just to review the steps while I finish off the little tinier details on my peach, you start by blocking out your form. You layer in your lightest tones. So for this peach, it was the yellow, and then we added a light wash of that red. We let that dry, and then we add another layer to our foundation. So this is going to start to darken up the colors a little bit more and add a little bit of texture to it. So we do a little bit of stippling. With that, you need to remember to follow the object shape. So this was round, so we made more rounded motions instead of straight up and down. Make sure that you try to color match the best that you possibly can. So in the darker areas, we added a lot more reds, and then in the lighter areas, we added a lot of yellows. And then just make sure that you're matching the texture and matching the colors the best that you can to make a realistic looking object. And also, lastly, don't forget to include your shadow. So that makes every object seem like it has permanence and like it has a place.